What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to the Chariot and Friends. Oops, yeah, watch out for that mic. Justin here, and how you feeling? Let me stop. How we feeling? The moon's in Scorpio. It's that time, as it is every month, where because this is the time where the moon is in her fall in Scorpio. But we're really gonna focus on not just the how intensely the moon can feel, just the transformative qualities that those feelings can bring about in Scorpio. That brings that real strength. That shows like how they shine as a zodiac sign. And I had a lot of thoughts with this one here, so we're going to get into all that here in a moment. But first off, if you're new here, again, my name is Justin. And know that when you're coming across this video, you're in sync with the moon. And who doesn't love that? Let me move this a little bit closer. But this is also a place where if you happen to have Cancer in your placements, Sun, Moon, Rising, maybe Mars, wherever, this one's for you. Actually, know a couple people who have Mars and Cancer, and they're pretty dope. So let me stop. And I do tarot card spreads based on that lovely luminary, the good old moon. I'm hoping to catch her tonight. And I'll talk about what sign it's in, what phase it's in, when it's going. Boy, of course, it's all those lunar shenanigans. And just so y'all are aware, this is a general reading, not a one-to-one. So take what fits into your story, discard the rest, and everything will be dope. Now, let's jump into it. Because, yes, this is an interesting energy that we're getting through, even the general energy. Because it's like even though I got a lot of fire, it's all ruled by a water sun. And, when we get into the feelings, sometimes emotions can be a little bit taxing. It can be a little exhausting. And we're going to get into all that, like, as far as, like, asking for help and all these things. But speaking of, like, heavy, daunting, and tasking things, depending on when you're watching this, happy Saturn Day. Saturn's associated with Saturday. And I find with just like Saturdays, yes, it can be out to have fun, usually it's people's weekends. But before we have all the fun, it's just like making sure like how are our responsibilities going? Are there some things that we need to get work done? This could be just like maybe I need to do my chores around the house. Maybe I need to file some paperwork. Maybe there's a need to get maybe a project in order. Maybe you got stuff to get prepared for when we get to Moon Day so that you can set yourself up for success so that you have the rest of the day to chill. Because that's what I find with Saturn. If you take those steps every day, we're disciplined on the things that we're needing to do, you're setting yourself up for tomorrow. Saturn is associated with time, and what better way to, make tomorrow's time just flow for you more easily. I got this thing done, okay, that opens up space. I can do this, that, and the third. So where Saturn maybe all time doesn't get the best rep because it's the great malefic, it's hard work and things, but it's hard work that pays off. Saturn's just not cracking the whip just to bring down, wants us to give our stuff form and take responsibility for this creation that's come into this realm here. So, and that's what I like to do for, especially like even like Saturn hours, especially if I've been procrastinating. If I see, and I was born during the Saturn hour, so whenever that happens to come around, I'm like, fine, Saturn. But I'm usually getting down naturally. I find that that's usually when I'm just like I'm starting to like, okay, let me think about this, and then I'll check and like, oh, how perfect, it's Saturn now, or I might be in the middle of it and it's like, oh, he's been watching me watching me dilly dally for a little bit. But also another thing that I like working with Saturn is thinking about not just like my relationship as far as like how I have Saturn natally, although I do that quite a bit, but also how do I deal when planets form aspects to my natal Saturn, but also too how do we deal with Saturn transits. I actually was talking with a client not too long ago, and they said something very refreshing, and that they knew, and I'm honestly am too. Like maybe the second one, the second go round. But they were like, I'm excited for my Saturn return. I was just like, that's a lovely place to be. I hold that. I love that for you and for all of us. We should all be excited about our friend. This is going to be their first Saturn return. So I'm just like, get it. I'm going to ace this next one. The first one was a tricky one. But Saturn is getting ready to enter into Aries. I'm pumped. It's gonna form a little tough transit with my Sun, but otherwise it's nothing but movement. Trine City. So I'm like, sign me up, Saturn. I'm here for it. I got some ideas. And that's a great way to be working with Saturn, to be ahead of the game and to be excited about the work that you're going to need to do to make Saturn things happen. Because I tell you what, as what I'm visualizing in my head, a lot of people are going to benefit from that. So That's something just to think about with Saturn. But listen, enough about him. I don't know how I got to go. Look at that. You can even get excited talking about Saturn. That's new. But let's get into the lunar shenanigans. Because on the 10th of May, at about 12:59 p.m., and that's going to be Pacific time, the moon is going to enter into Scorpio. And we'll talk about the full moon here in a moment. But when you just think about Scorpio as just an energy, they're traditionally ruled by Mars, and they are the fixed water sign, and they're receptive or yin in nature. And when you think about the scorpion, it holds its venom inside of them. Is a concentrated water, liquid that basically poison is. And so that's where Scorpio gets that tendency of where they're feeling things intensely. But scorpions too, I remember reading somewhere where scorpions can sense the vibrations on the ground. They have a very sensitive receptors in that, and we can sense when things are coming or, traveling on land there. And so that's like, there's a deep intuition with Scorpio. And I think on top of that, when you're moving through those kind of like waters intensely, because I will say, I think of it's like all the water signs feel differently. We feel different. But Scorpio can like not just feel that, but hold it. And I find where that can be harmful if we let the vibrations run us, if we're not sure, if we don't get inquisitive about what these feelings are. And again, you take that at your own, at the pace that you're ready. You don't just inject all the venom at once. But over time, you start to build, as you start to probe more, maybe tougher emotions, and learn to work with them, they don't catch you off guard. Then you feel fueled. It's as opposed to, I remember, for example, I have the sun in the 12th house, so when I'm going through sun transits, they're not always that great. And they're not bad, but it's just like, it's something that'll be kind of stirring up, and then it's like, as opposed to letting it be a thing that like, oh, here comes just another sun moment. It's just like, okay, why am I in a sun moment? What's going on right now? What is whipping up, activating my 12th house? There's some things that maybe I need to get involved with. And now, instead of it just being the house of bad spirit, it's now bad spirit and I are on better terms. Now it's just like, hey, this thing's coming up, something's off. There's something off and we need to deal with it sooner rather than later. And that's what I think Scorpio can just give you, that power to learn how to react to your emotions better, so that you're not, you become curious as opposed to just, again, reactive. And I think there's something there I've been trying to figure out with, like, there's a thing with Gemini and Scorpio where it's like, there's a curiosity that both of them have, I think, that kind of links those two together sometimes, like how Gemini is just naturally, just like in an intellectual way, and Scorpio is more intuitively curious about what am I feeling, what's going on here. So even though I think the moon here, the moon likes to fluctuate, and I think that sometimes with Scorpio, those fluctuations can get a bit out of control if we're not able to regulate. But I think the more that we come, again, to accept those motions, accept those fluctuations and learn how to deal with them, then we end up being more in control. And that could be where you may need to just take some time. Maybe you're processing some sort of thing, and yeah, I don't know. Scorpio really just, it helps you deal, kind of face the facts of certain things, that all the emotions aren't pleasant, but they all have a message, that are trying to get you back to a state of equilibrium. That's trying to get you in the flow. And I mean, yeah, really, I think you can tap into that moon and Scorpio energy, deal with those emotions, the power that comes behind that. And you can sense that in others and help other people move through these emotions as well, because you've been through them, you've met them at the places. And that's where Scorpio is like, you have to be brave. There's a courage that needs to happen with when being martial ruled, to be able to face all things and to be able to call inspiration from them, because all the emotions, they're not just meant to be just like these things you go through and that's it, like wasted emotions. They're meant to, let's do something with them. I am feeling this thing, let me write about it, let me create something from this, let me express these feelings. And that may move people in ways that you never would expect, and then you're transcending to a higher level here and able to meet more challenges. So yeah, don't let, even though a planet, celestial body, I should probably explain it too, when a celestial body is in its fall. That just means sometimes it has a tendency to to fall into just like maybe lower expressions of itself. So this would be the moon being very reactive, holding on to emotions and not letting them go, and not allowing itself to flow and move through the natural cycles of things, but maybe just always staying stuck on a particular feeling in the past. I've met someone once who has really skipped a really heavy Scorpio, and I mean it was almost palpable when they would get into certain, when they would channel certain emotions and start talking about that. But there was one point I was like, we got to go outside if we're gonna be doing all that, because that's like, I mean, it was riling up my Leo. Like I just felt fire. I'm like, this ain't gonna work. If I'm gonna take this on, yeah, we gotta do something different. So, pay attention what may come up through this moon in Scorpio, because it happens once a month, and this is going to be the fullest that it's going to be at. And so if we can face this fullness head on, the rest of them are cake. But let's go ahead and get into this chart a little bit more and talk about this, because I got a whole chart for you. So like I said, the full moon is, well, I haven't said yet, full moon is when you got the sun here, just chilling in the pastures of Taurus, not a care in the world, and then the moon here on one. I'm kidding. It's Scorpio, feeling its way through things, deeply into itself. This is like shaman energy, when the moon's in, I think, really in touch with its emotions in Scorpio. But it's when the sun and the moon are opposed one another. Oh, I should write this in red. I mean, it can be a joyous time, but usually oppositions can be a little tense. So yeah, let's get that there. But usually this is when, I like to think of the oppositions as kind of like expectation versus reality. This is what I was feeling, or what I was, what was ever happening when the new moon happened, and this is the intentions that I wanted to fix. Where am I at with that? And then based on that information, where do I either celebrate because I'm feeling right on track, or as I'm getting to the waning period, like, oh, there's still some things maybe that I'm holding on to that I need to let go in order to make space for this change to happen when we get to the last quarter phase here. So this is just an evaluation period. In the full moon, I think regardless of where we're at, it should be a point of celebration, because whether it thinks met your expectations or not, you set an intention. You were in control. You showed up, and this is how I wanted to do this thing. And like, oh, okay, there were certain things, especially if it missed. There's certain things like, oh, okay, I didn't know until now, but now I've developed different tools, or now I know I need to ask such and such maybe to help me for this, or look to this resource, or whatever that means. So I would say during this full moon, to not let it be something that maybe overwhelms you if you can help it. Stick to that Sun and Taurus energy to help balance that out, where it's like, hey, this is progress. Whatever this thing that you did, this is progress, and that should feel good. That could feel something that you've transcended. You've gone beyond just in this, instead of being in just like a base reactive energy. You were more in a proactive energy. So that's a way, like one way that I would think of, just kind of looking at this lunation here. And eventually, I'm just looking at how, and this is a little bit down the line, the sun and the moon will eventually be, sun will form a sextile with Saturn, and then the moon will trine Saturn. So there'll be an opportunity, and there will be some movement here after this lunation. I don't think that'll just be all just like intensities and emotions, and just like all, because now we have a little bit more of a balanced chart. We got a couple planets in fire, a couple planets in water, a couple planets in earth. We got Jupiter in air, but Jupiter's kind of, we don't need more air at the moment. We don't need Jupiter overthinking things more than it already does. But yeah, I think that this is one where we can really kind of work constructively with this. That's how I always like to work with these transits here. But let's talk about the Sabian symbol. Oh, what I want to. Now I'm thinking about it. I want to look up the Sabian symbol for the sun as well for this one. But the Sabian symbol for the moon is, oh, and I didn't write that one down. It is, look at that, Justin. We're gonna. Oh, thanks, Spirit. Okay, we're going to talk about that one first. So it's phase 233, and I'm using an astrological mandas by Dane Rudd here. It's a great book. Really great book, really great stuff, especially if you follow the sun. Like, that's an easy way of following. Just watch the degrees, since it changes about a degree each day. But yeah, just a little something to think about. But phase 233 of Scorpio is a rabbit metamorphoses into a nature spirit. And there is something really cool about that. It's just like you go from this earthly world and you just transcend to become this guide now. And the keynote for this is the raising of animal drives to a higher level. And I truly if you don't read anything else about this, read the Scorpio ones. I think Scorpio has some of my favorite Sabian symbols of the zodiac. I think there's such imagery there that's really cool. But when you think about that, of course, when we're thinking about this on a meta, like when we're just thinking about this, like going from like elevating, we're coming from a base level of a rabbit, which is rabbits by nature are just like over, they can represent abundance because they can, you hear like, humping like rabbits and they're always, there's little bunnies all over the place. But when you think about the rabbits, the only grass the only predator that grass has is like a rabbit, and like other animals too, but like otherwise rabbits don't really hunt other things. They literally just eat grass all day, and they procreate, and then nature happens whether it's natural or something in the sky or on the ground or whatever. But you think about it, there's almost just like just trying to procreate and survive, just very base levels here. But now it's changed into a nature spirit where it's learning to it's this level of transcendence that I think is trying to happen here, where we go beyond just doing the base things of just like, oh, let's just survive this thing. No, we want to thrive in this experience here. And I think it's like when you go from that place of wanting to, not just go with the motions and just do the things, go in and day out, and there's no sort of purpose, but want more meaning in your experience and whatever that looks like for you. That's when you become a spirit. You're a nature spirit, and we're rising above and driving to higher levels and moving everyone else with us. But this also does call into, the natural process of death. And with, I think of the feelings, that's the one that I think Scorpio, I don't think I think they get thrown, honestly, a lot of that death stuff with them, which I don't think is necessarily fair. But since we're going to feel about it, it's like, well, then let's talk about it then, because it's a natural process of life. And I think that I think in that where, yeah, there may be a little fear, a little uncomfortableness, just because it's like you do get an attachment to the body. This is an expression of you, and how can you not love this thing? It does so much for us, but it only has so much time to do so much things for us, which can produce a number of emotions, a number of powerful emotions. And it can either be ones that drive us into this sort of fight or flight mentality, or it can put us into the state of transcendence and empowerment. And getting to this place where it's like, you know what, I want to have the biggest impact as possible. I want to be able to feel not just the fear of death, but the joy of life. You know what, if I'm on a time clock anyway, let me make the most of it. Let me really just do it big and do it in a different way, as opposed to, I'm gonna feel big emotions, and not to the point of just like ecstatic fervor, where you can't function, but more so like really like, let's seek fulfillment. Let's look for something, just of a higher level here. I think that that's where the transformative energies of Scorpio comes in, because now we've met ourselves on a very deep level and had some very deep personal conversations with ourselves. And then that allows us to have more conversations with other about this. And I'm just looking at the Sabian symbol for the sun, and I like this one too. It talks about a jewelry shop filled with valuable gems. And the keynote for this is the social confirmation of natural excellence. And this is, to me, when you start to transcend and go to higher levels, you find more value in yourself. You have more jewels to display in your quote unquote jewelry shop here, and people will respond to that in kind. People are going to notice, like, hey, you look different, or hey, you've been acting different. Hey, I like how you do this thing. Can you show me how you transformed? I want to get out of where I'm not just abundant and, like, people tell me about I'm abundant, but I feel afraid about it, like a rabbit. It's more so like I feel abundant and I can take that natural abundance and create something with it and drive something with it, and again, transcend here. So This is, I think this can be a very empowering moon cycle for sure. But it's one that's going to require some work, and one that, again, we might need some assistance on here. Let's go ahead and get into your general energy of the day, because you got hexagram 16 here, which is weariness. And it's thunder over earth. And if you want to, there's a link down in the description, but I think they actually translate it as joy. But if you want to check that out, the changing lines are all the same, and it's just like maybe some translations might be a little different, but they're all going to encompass the same sort of thing. There's some multiple resources out there that have this stuff. I mentioned from time to time. I have the I-Ching, the Oracle by Kirsten Huang. So, all sorts of. There's one by Benabel Wen. That's a really fantastic one too that I'd recommend. I got a bunch of rituals from that one. So. But we're going to, since we didn't get any changing lines, we're just going to focus on the hexagram here, which is pretty dope. And this talks about auspicious to appoint helpers to take military action. I could have read that more so smoothly. Let's try it again. Auspicious to appoint helpers to take military action. That's better. So this is one where if you have been feeling through a lot, you've been going through a lot of changes, and maybe you need a little bit more time, for certain things. I think that there's one here of just like of needing to ask for help. So let's say if you got a lot on your plate and you're in your family, it's just like, hey, can you help me with the dishes? Can you help me with this thing, so that I'm just like always not feeling like I'm doing all of the things all of the time, and just like, and this is like to help take decisive action, because when we're reactive, then like let's say if you're in a in a military setting, for example, and your commander is losing it, and it's just like you're not going to take decisive action, you're going to be panicked. Whereas someone's coming through calm, like, hey, we're in this situation, but we're going to do this, the X, Y, and Z, then bam, like that's someone that okay, we feel more in control of a situation here. So, and if you're noticing too, just with this weariness, if you're sensing that other people maybe can't handle something, this taking military action, it could be just kind of helping guide. Like maybe this is like, you see a friend maybe kind of get floundering or something. It's just like, hey, I'm sensing that something's off. Do you have something you want to get off your chest? Do you want some advice? Like how do you need me to show up for you right now? You could be that kind of sun and Taurus, that kind of grounded approach maybe to their moon and Scorpio that might be feeling a lot right now. So this can go either way. It's auspicious for us to lean on each other and understand that we all that moons and Scorpios, it's not always all intense for people. This, some people, if you have like, honestly, if you got Cancer placements, Pisces placements, this is flow. Scorpio energy is a flowing time for you emotionally. Or this is even like Capricorn or Taurus. You got not Taurus. That was a little tricky for Taurus. But it's like Capricorn or Virgo. This is one where opportunities may be presenting themselves for you. It's like the fixed signs. You've got a lot of fixed placements like myself, where there may be a bit more action that's going on there. But everyone feels this energy differently, and I think that's something where we need to like lean on each other's strength. My partner is like, okay, I may call on him for something, so he's got Virgo placements. Yeah, he's got a couple fixed placements, but also like, hey, you might be able to move through this, because like Scorpio time is always like sometimes it's dope, other times it's like I could take a nap. I'd rather be at home. It's going through my home space anyway. I'm going to make it a point to just always be at home when moon's in Scorpio. Or just any Scorpio. But, yeah, especially, and I kind of like this too, like just thinking of how I talked about, and I'm going to switch over here, but how I was talking about how the Scorpion can sense like the vibrations in the earth and sense danger when it's coming. That thunder on the earth, you hear the thunder before you can sense that when it's coming, like, oh, there may be rain that's coming or that, but we don't know if that's going to be good or bad, if the place is prone to flooding, whatever. But I think if you're sensing something that's coming, it's like, get ahead of this thing now, while you can see the things, while you can still take decisive action here. So try not to let something, I think, get out of hand, because then it'll get a lot harder as things progress. But let's move into the tarot and get some messages on this thing. But before we do these readings that I do, they're not gender specific readings, so apply these energies to people as they make sense for your situations. And I'm going to talk about different topics, whether it be about medical or financial, maybe even like relationship, legal matters, but this is by no means professional advice. Talk to your doctors, your lawyers, your therapists, your healers, all those good people out there doing that good work. So I'm going to pull 6 cards. They're all going to cover different themes. And since we don't have any changing lines, I'm not going to get any clarifiers. I'm just going to alternate between the decks here. So let's go ahead and get into your first card, which talks about any sort of like short-term money manners or just like how you've been maybe spending your time. Ooh, that's how we need to be spending our time. Look at you, Nine of Pentacles. And I'm with the Nine of Pentacles. This can be, maybe especially in short-term money matters. This could be you taking some steps now. Maybe you've been feeling like you haven't been in control of your finances. Maybe this is falling on a financial axis for you, like second house, eighth house things. This could be where you're wanting to invest in yourself a little differently. Maybe you want to start saving more, making your money work for more things that you enjoy doing. Maybe you want to start taking up falconry. Maybe you want to start, look at that, look at this garden that's growing behind you. Maybe you want to tap into those skills. Any sort of like improvement, sort of like solo improvement work. Nine of Pentacles is great for that. Really kind of being in your Empress, embodying your Empress energy. They're not there. They haven't quite, it's like this, it's interesting, these clothes are a little loose on this person. It's like they haven't quite filled the space of an Empress yet, but they're embodying the energy now. These are the things that I feel an Empress would be doing. So now I'm going to make them manifest and become tangible, like we see between Scorpio and Taurus. Because that's the kind of thing I like about between the two of them. Scorpio can help Taurus move the energies, but Taurus can help Scorpio ground those feelings that maybe it has, if it gets a little too much there. But I'm also looking at, I've got to get drawn to that little snail there, that this is something where these short-term investments have long-term benefits. The snail is the one that carries its home with it always, and I just think that there's something here about you investing in yourself in a certain type of way. They're really kind of being like, this really wanting to be more in a self-sufficient type of energy here. I love that. And not letting, no, I'm gonna leave that there. Let's go ahead and get to your next card, which talks about any sort of like medical matters or things along those lines. All right, so you got the Ten of Swords here in reverse. And this Ten of Swords, maybe we got to a place where you got some, I'm getting like maybe you got some, maybe if this is like you got some tough news, for example, as far as like maybe things have changed permanently. And maybe you're like at first it's like it's seeing it as the end of the world. This is the Sun in Gemini, which the Sun's going to move into Gemini here soon. And maybe there's just a lot of getting a lot of downloads right now, just like not quite of uncertainty. The mind is just kind of buzzing right now. But I think that this is like, okay, you've gotten the news, the thing is done. It's like we could either Moon and Scorpio give into the emotions, the fear and things, or we can just get grounded. I'm like, okay, this is the new reality. I'm going to have to maybe take care of myself in a different sort of way. I remember when my stepdad had to get he played hockey for a long time, and he eventually had to get some knee surgery and had to quit like everything. He was like, someone was smoking at the time and you're drinking a little bit, but had to quit like all of that. Because it's like, if you're going to be in this place of healing, you're not going to be able to do it with the way that you're taking care of yourself. And he had to make some lifestyle changes. And he's been doing better from it. Back out in the yard, moving again, looks great, looks healthy. Had a lot of health things that were going on there. But once we took care of it, got a game plan, then it was good. It was all gravy. But at first, it's like it can seem in that moment when you get the information, how the mind just can flood it with just like, oh my gosh, how am I going to handle all of this stuff? One day at a time. Go back to that snail. One day at a time. You know what? Let's figure out how this is going to go first. And then let's get out this is going to go first. And I know you're going to tackle all the things, but you can't. And don't be afraid to ask for help. That might be something with this Ten of Swords too. Going back to your general energy. You may have got this shocking news. And yeah, you've been feeling a little exhausted about it, have some like, hey, are you able to maybe help me out with this thing? Maybe like, can I do, whatever that might look like for you, but yeah, I just keep getting like it doesn't have to be the end of the world. It can be something where it may be an adjustment. That's not to say that, and then you're allowed to feel exactly how you're supposed to feel. It's perfect. But just know that eventually things life will continue to grow on. It kind of become the norm, and then you'll have a different routine, and then it'll be fine. Let's get into your next card, which talks about any sort of like legal matters or social affairs. All right, so you got the Three of Swords up right here. One, I got like an acceptance of something, but it's almost like an acceptance letter is what I'm kind of getting, like a signing of a contract. That's one thing the Three of Swords can be. Even though this can get like a feeling of like a sadness, but I think that there's like, because one thing, maybe we're sadness that like something is ending, but at the same time a new contract is beginning. This could be like, for example, maybe you had like a business partnership and that kind of ran its course, and now you're starting up something new, and you're trying to figure things out, and we miss certain things about how things were going, but there are new opportunities that are getting ready to come up here. And that's what this Three of Swords is giving me, just sort of making peace with the situation. This could possibly be where maybe we're needing to do some sort of like court thing. Maybe there's some sort of like argument that's going on, something where it's like you don't want things to go this way, but the alternative is just more fighting. And now it's just like almost like this Three of Swords is where it doesn't have to feel great, but it just like it is going to feel better in the long run. I'm even getting, maybe there may be even some respect like later on, possibly there, where like an acknowledgement. Let's say if this was like a fight with like a neighbor or something over like zoning issues or whatever that might be. It's just like, all right, well, what I mean? Because like something can just like come together on that, where you just see each other differently. And I don't think it has to be where the relationship maybe ends. It's just like, what, you were right. I didn't mean to respond the way that I did. It's just like I had this thing that was coming on, and it just seemed easier just to project my stuff out on you and make you a villain and blah, blah, blah. So that's what this is. This is maybe kind of this one thing that's kind of giving me there. But I'm even thinking too, just going back to that Nine of Pentacles, if we're doing something where we're focusing more on ourselves, that might be something where you're cutting some time, maybe with your social circle, with your groups, and maybe they're feeling some type of way. It's like things aren't the same. How do we get back to where this is? But it's just like it's not like you're necessarily leaving the group, but it's just like this. I just need to take a beat, kind of maybe find yourself again, so that you have something new, some fresher energies to contribute to the group. So that's just another thing that's kind of coming up there with this Three of Swords as well. Let's get into your next card here. And you know what? Yeah, one more thing. I did think that if you are maybe processing something here, this would be a great time to maybe share that with someone. This is Saturn in Libra, and building that sort of like connections with people, maybe taking something to, allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Even though this is a sword card, there's this big red heart here that's, it's almost like maybe some like the people that you're sharing with, they're not just piercing your heart just to disregard your feelings, but maybe they're helping you get out of your feelings, to help you rationalize the feelings, where it's like, this is why that you're feeling this way, and that's totally normal. Give yourself some grace. That might be something. I actually had a friend just tell me that not too long ago, and that was, it was encouraging. It was just like, what, yeah, you're right, because sometimes it's hard for you to see, even if you're one who tends to be very introspective, you need that outside view to give you a clear picture of how things are going. You know what I mean? Let's get to your next card, which talks about any sort of like romantic matters, marriage, things along those lines. Hmm. I'm with it. So you got the magician here. It's Mercury energy, and I like the magician and romance. This would be, I think, a great time if you're wanting to get into love. Like to maybe create that opportunity. That it's not going to be something that just falls in your lap. You have to put yourself in that space if you want to meet your person. Then they have to be able to see you. You have to create opportunities and windows for them to run into you, or to so that maybe we're getting to that Three of Swords. It's just like, well, you can't be in your house all day. You got to socialize, or maybe like social media isn't doing it. So maybe just go out with some friends, maybe like in like a neighborhood setting, something like that. Maybe there's some sort of community thing, and who knows? You may bump into somebody, get to talking, and I know it may seem like it's something out of a movie, but sometimes it can be like that. It's stranger things have happened, and allow miracles to just be abound. And I see too, if you are in like an existing relationship, this could be maybe bringing some magic back into the relationship, whatever that looks like. It is, this could be maybe making more time for just some more intimacy, or maybe this is like maybe planning like a trip or something together, something that you're both excited about, or maybe you go try something different, something that just kind of just shakes up the energy a little bit. Maybe you've both been doing just like kind of busy solo work, and maybe it's time to show the fruits of your creations. That might even be something there. Maybe, as it makes sense. Maybe once you have the idea grounded in things, like sharing what you've been kind of cooking up there, how you've been transforming at this butterfly here. And I think that's all I got for you on this magician. Communication. That's just like the last thing that I'm getting. Communication, and watch how something happens. Let's get into your fifth card here, which talks about any sort of like immediately pressing affairs. Let's see what's going on there. Ooh, all right. Got some work to do. You got the Three of Pentacles here. This is another exalted card here. You got this is Mars in Capricorn, and I think one sort of immediately thing, even just looking at this combination of energies here, how we started off with the Nine of Pentacles here. I think that there's something like, if you've been working on falconry, or violin, or some sort of, maybe learning some kind of tech skill or something, this would be a great time to maybe kind of double down on that. Maybe getting your work out there, putting your stuff on display. This could be an energy of collaboration. Maybe you're needing someone to help you do maybe you're needing like a photo, someone to help take more professional photos, or maybe someone to help you do some kind of editing, and like maybe we're like exchanging services possibly here, or something along those lines. But if you need something, we're not just meant to do everything by ourselves, or else there would just be one of us here doing all the things. That's why we're here. We all have different gifts that we specialize in, and it's how do we make the most out of those skills there. It's like maybe getting the best of all the worlds that you have. And I almost think too, it's like there's something here about, I'm getting a message about wondering what other people's ambitions are, because you are the people that you talk around. I just heard this here recently, and I've heard this before, but it just kind of had rang through not too long ago. You're the sum of like the five people that you're around the most. So that might be something to consider there too. Just like what are other people's goals, and are they doing things that are motivating you into more kind of action there. So that's something that's also coming into to view. But the Three of Pentacles is just generally really just kind of busy, but not like, but it's like, let's get down to the grind of thing. Let's do something towards the great work, the great sacrifice. How do we further that progress along here? I'm with it. Let's get to your last card here, which talks about the karma, or the destiny of the situation, or just of a situation, whatever question happens to be for that. So you got the moon in reverse here, Pisces energy. And This gives to me maybe we're not sure about how a certain situation is going to go. The moon can be a bit it's a time where you have to get more intuitive. You have to get more into the feeling of things. I had an interesting combination once where I had both the high priestess and the moon, and that was just like, yeah, really just kind of heightened sensitivity. But you can only really pick that up when you find those spaces for quiet to go within this, feel what you're moving through. Right now, the moon is a mysterious card. It's a it's kind of the universe moving around you. There's all this activity that's happening, but we're not able to see it all, but we're sensing it. The waters are in motion right now. And I'm just getting here, it's like a not being afraid of the uncertainty, it's leaning into the uncertainty. You may not know what this person may not know how they're going to become an empress, what all that may entitles, the things, but there's something that they're channeling right now. There's something that is happening, and it's like there's paying attention to like the results. Like there's opportunity, I think, with the moon in reverse to just go back into that primal instinct where we panic, where we abort mission just because we're not sure, and just go back to just procreating and surviving. And I think that this moon here is it's like we can either give into that base one has a purpose, but it's like, can we take those basic instincts and hone them? And make them more where the intuition's working with us, as opposed to us every shadow being some sort of deterrent or some kind of monster, something that's like wall that's meant to be in your way here. So, and maybe if you're uncertain about a thing, it's like, again, asking someone to help you to maybe give that decisive action. Maybe it doesn't make sense to you, but to someone else, they can see the problem as clear as day. That's one thing where I personally, I don't have a lot of Earth I don't have any of your planets in Earth, like, no, none of the classical planets. And so sometimes grounding, I can have all this like fire, all this will to move, but then it's just like, well, what do I do with that? How do I ground that? And sometimes it's nice to talk with people who have Earth placements and things to help me get a bit more perspective on stuff. And then in kind, I fire up all the Earth energies and all those things. So that's just another thing, like working with compliments and things, and how that relationship can really work there, knowing even what signs you tend to work really well with, and what signs maybe you don't work well with them, but they push you in a way. I got some thoughts about Pisces, but that's neither here nor there. But there's nothing to get you. I know a lot of people with their moon. I know a lot of moon and Pisces, which is very fascinating. Even some Pisces risings. But let's go ahead and get some advice from Mars. Oh, a lot of water. Here's Scorpio. You got the death card here. And let's switch over. Now, the death card is, especially being in reverse, it's like we know that there's a change that's coming. You sense the change is coming, but you're fighting tooth and nail to prevent it from happening. This priest here is begging death for his life. Death don't care. But it's and I mean in just like this metaphorical sense. This is not like literal death. It's more so just like this there's a chapter that's ending. Something is getting ready to evolve here. And even like the young girl, she's excited. She's just like, oh, all right, we're done with this. Because I think the story with them is that they both actually have like an illness, and so if anything, death would be a release from whatever they're stuck in right now, whatever this maybe base kind of animal instinct that we're in, and now we're going to transcend into something different. But that transcendence isn't always comfortable. It's something that we have to push ourselves through this growth. Thinking about like how like I'm just thinking about like how the crab, and even like I think scorpions shed, and just like all those molting animals that have to get rid of that outer skin in order for a new tougher skin to and skeletons to grow and for them to grow into. So It can bring up a lot of feelings, I think, this Scorpio energy. But again, it's not something that I think is meant to just get you where you're stuck. I think that's what can happen. Obviously, with it being a fixed water sign and getting stuck in the emotions, that's a tough place. You're just kind of just circling the drain for a while. But eventually that water gets moving. That water gets broken up, and I think it's just like accepting that there's a flow that's happening. So what do you want to create, magician? Oh, and that's an interesting thing too that's coming through. Who do you want to create things with? Are these people that you're creating stuff with? Is this what you want? Do we have the same view in mind here? So that's definitely something to consider. But I think I'm gonna leave that there. A little something to think about. But if you like that, if anything resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. And share this if you know somebody who can get some nuggets of wisdom from this. And subscribe there, you magician. Hit that bell button to get notified on all these videos each day. And I'm going to shuffle for your surprise card or cards here. But if you want to work more personally with these lunations, maybe you have your moon in Scorpio, you want to do your lunar return, or if you want to just get to know your natal chart better, or just follow how to work with the transits more, how to understand the houses, things like that, down in the description box, there's a list of my services and what I provide for them. And if you have any questions, there's a link for it should be a link, but you can email me and ask me all the questions, and we'll go from there, building relationships. And also, if you want to follow just like Mercury and the rest of them, when Saturn's about to move out of Pisces here soon, then which I'm like, thank goodness. But if you want to follow the transits of the other celestial bodies, on my other channel, there's a link, or down in the description, there's a link for my other channel, Alchemist 8, where I do just that and how to set intentions for those energies. And I release those every Mercury day. This one actually, I have one that came out on Jupiter day because Mercury almost ran past me. But it's fine, I caught it. So there's that. And I also do these planetary videos that talk about different celestial bodies in different signs in different houses. So that's a nice fun little series that I've been doing as well. So definitely check that out. Let's go ahead and get into your surprise card here, which is the calling for, what does it say? The calling of the soul. In this one, to me, that whatever your soul's calling is, it could be wanting to build this palace, whatever your empire is. It's not something, again, that I think you have to do. We all have a soul calling here, and we all have different gifts that complement our growth to achieve that soul calling there. I'll give you another example of this. I've been kind of getting into looking at the limbic practices and doing a little research on that. Been doing a lot of reading on Aleister Crowley's work, and there's a lot of esoteric books as of I actually got a whole list of things that was some of them I knew, other ones I'm gonna have to look into, but I'm excited because it's just more reading and just more things that I'm racking up in the queue. But my brother is looking at different been studying a lot of Jewish mysticism and getting into that really, really heavy, and already has a kind of a background in that. And somehow those two have been able to, what we both are learning, are complementing each other very well, at least in what we're discussing and things, and thinking about how we're going about different stuff. So that to say, this soul calling, it doesn't have to be something where it seems like this insurmountable task that that you have to do on your own. You have to live in your calling, walk in your truth, but there are people that are going to be there to support you along the way, and you will respond in kind to them. So I'm just getting almost and it's to me feel a little harsh how it's coming through, but it's there's no excuse to not be in one's alignment. Just because when you do, and the calling of the soul, this could be even a calling to if you're not sure what that soul calling is, you're not alone in that. talk to spirit. You know, check in with yourself. Like what feels right for you. You know what you want to do. If you took a minute and just kind of thought about that, even just a second, you know what. And then okay, I like ballet. You know, whatever. Let's explore that a little bit. You know, maybe I take a class. You know, maybe I just look at a video and start learning different forms. How do they stretch? How do they exercise? How do they warm up? You know, like this is me imagining my ballet practices. You see I'm a little out practice. But yeah, that's what I'm getting for that. You know, you can change things. You know, you can be uncertain about it, but you know, if you stay in that place of just confusion and stagnation here, because this is just like it gets stuck in the pool, stuck in the pool, and it's just like get out, get out that water, and just really kind of let's really think. Let's get this idea going. You know, get this idea grounded. Just small steps can make a big difference down the line. So, but yeah, I think that's all I got. That's all I got for you there. So, until next time, stay mindful out there. Let me see when I catch you next. Keep raising that vibration through the roof. Oh, and how lovely. And I will catch you on the next one, Mars Day.